Hello, my Luminites. It is Ivy, and welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, hello. My name is Ivy, also known as Intuitive Ivy M, here on this YouTube channel, as well as on my Instagram and on my TikTok. I am the co-founder of an amazing spiritual business company called Unearthly Treasures, where you can reach us at unearthlytreasures.com. Check us out at unearthlytreasures.com. Anyways, today I am going to be doing a book review. So you guys know last month I unboxed a box called the Witches Book Coven, or the Witches Book Box, and we got two books. We got a book called The Noble Art, which I'll post somewhere here, and then we also got this book here, which is the Witches Sabbath by Kelden. So I did not manage to read The Noble Art. It was just a little too intimidating for me, just the size of it. It was just too bulky. So as you can see, I annotated the bejeebas out of it because, you know, I wanted to make sure that everything sank in correctly. So basically, Kelden goes into the history and the folklore and the traditions of the original Witches Sabbath. So he gathers around testimonials from witches during the Salem witch trials, during other infamous witch trials in which a lot of women and men actually were faced with persecution, being accused of witches. And so he got from those people. He also got just folklore, traditional folklore, other historical events that led to this whole, what became known as the Witches Sabbath. That's what it's about. It's basically a bit of history, also with a combination of folklore, as well as he also teaches you, if you wanted to visit the Witches Sabbath, what you can do, what you might expect to see there. So it was very interesting. It was definitely a read that I would consider for more like intermediate to advanced witchcraft practitioners. This isn't one that I would recommend as like when you're just beginning witchcraft to read this book, because it's gonna be it might throw you off the path if you start with this one, or if this is one of the first books that you read. Because just keep in mind that a lot of the things that are being said here were based off of trials, so witches that were basically tormented into saying certain things. So he did put a trigger warning right here. So this does get into, you know, obviously being the Witches Sabbath, a lot of things that people believe about witches in the past and in history, it got pretty dark. People believed that witches did all kinds of crazy stuff, and it does go into that folklore. So it does have trigger warnings because this book got quite graphic and just downright barbaric at sometimes, that I even felt nauseous reading it occasionally. So just keep that in mind if you're someone that's easily triggered by cannibalism. It's a lot of like graphic stuff. So just putting that trigger warning in there if you're easily like disgusted, if you're easily disturbed, or not even easily, this isn't just if you get disturbed by this kind of stuff, just keep that in mind going into this, because it was quite graphic. Even for me, I got pretty nauseated reading it at times with how graphic it was, and I'm not easily triggered like that, but this one did it for me. So when I first started reading this book, I was obsessed. I was like, oh my goodness, like I loved how they talked about how like it just kind of came to be, like the whole Witches Sabbath and what it's believed to be. So it started off with like pagans versus like early like Roman Catholicism, and this was before Roman Catholicism was like a big entity. The pagans kind of like attacked Roman Catholicism and was like, hey, you do this, you are doing all these bad things, and I don't want to say exactly what, because like I said, trigger warnings, and I don't want to trigger anyone here. You're doing all these bad things. And then when the Catholics got more power, they flipped it on the pagans, and thus the Witches Sabbath kind of took birth from there. And after all the witch trials in which witches were basically, not even witches, just women and men in general were just tortured and tormented until they pleaded guilty, or else they wouldn't stop being tormented. It just came into this whole what we know, like, and what we see in like Halloween films and like just horror films and like, you know, all that stuff that's not, that it wasn't originally. So I thought it was really interesting and intriguing in that way. So it does get pretty disturbing. So overall, my review is like pros and cons. Pros, I did like the history, I did like the folklore. So Kelden does go into, if you wanted to attend the Witches Sabbath, which because of all the beliefs behind it, if you do attend these Witches Sabbath, you might find yourself coming across fae, dangerous, other mystical creatures. And if you want to go to the Witches Sabbath, it's not something that I would recommend for any beginner. Me, myself, I wouldn't do it. You might come face to face with like darker, potentially darker entities. So when he was describing how to do it, how to get to the Witches Sabbath if you wanted to attend it, I was like, nope, 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 nope. But it's there in case you wanted to get into that. So that was very interesting. So overall, I did really like it. However, I know that there was a trigger warning, but it still really, really deeply disturbed me. And like, he did kind of emphasize about like the Witches Sabbath, and because it became known as like this, like, you know, thing associated with darker stuff, that's what we might see coming across it. And it's, for me, it kind of like made it seem like, how do I say this? I just felt like it just put witches into like a darker light, that I'm just kind of like, I don't know, I was kind of iffy about. So that's why I was a little iffy on this one. So, and of course there's a whole trigger warning that left me a little nauseated at times. So because of that, I did rate this book 3 out of 5 stars, but I did like the history behind it. I did like learning about all this stuff that I had no idea about. I like how just little bits and pieces just sort of started piecing together until we got what became known as this infamous thing that just grew and grew and grew. So I liked that, I enjoyed that. However, because of those trigger warnings and then just that darker light, that it kind of, I don't know, this could just be my personal opinion, but it just put it in a bit of like a darker light. I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. So that's my review for the Witches Sabbath by Kelden. This is my first review that I'm doing on here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.